Welcome back to the original Legend of Zelda. Last time we went through dungeons 4 and 5, getting the dungeon items, of course, heart containers, killing the bosses, doing the do. And we also got ourselves the magical sword last time, which costs 12 hearts? Well, not really costs, but you prove yourself by having 12 hearts, you grab it, and it's the best sword in this game, killing a lot of older enemies with ease. Sadly, we're not going to be facing a lot of older enemies in the next dungeon, which is very lame. The way to Dungeon 6 is pretty simple from Dungeon 5. It's close to the graveyard that we went to earlier. I guess I could have warped there as well, but walking there doesn't really take that long, and as you might remember, just below Dungeon 5 is that weird kind of maze area, which doesn't let you go to the right or down, so I thought walking there would be the fastest. And there's a pea hat in my way. Thank you. And a Lionel up here. I really want to kill this Lionel for some reason. It shoots sword beams at me. Alright, I gotta shoot a sword beam at it. Here's Dungeon 6. Maybe my least favorite dungeon in this game. Probably because it's really hard. Like, really hard. The first enemies we're seeing here are my least favorite in this game, probably. The Wizzrobes. They like to teleport around and then shoot magical blasts at you. I think the blasts, even with having the the blue ring, take away 2 hearts apiece. So, you can get shredded by these guys. They like to teleport around. While they're teleporting, obviously they can't be hurt. But while they're flashing just before or just after they finish teleporting, they still can get hurt, which is pretty cool. I think that might have been... I think that might have been changed from the original version, because I could have sworn that back then you couldn't attack them while they were flashing, you could only attack them while they were completely solid. So maybe they made it a little easier for the mini Nintendo Entertainment System version. Entertainment, good job. Either way, you can block their blasts with the magical shield. So if you just kind of stand still and face them, it's not too much of a hassle. Sadly, we also get introduced to blue Wizzrobes in this dungeon. I was gonna say game, of course they're in the game. And the blue Wizzrobes are like the red Wizzrobes is a hard word to say. The blue ones are like the red ones in that they still shoot magic at you. They can still be blocked by the shield, except their teleportation is a bit different. Rather than just blipping out of existence and then reappearing somewhere else, they kind of just hover to other places, I guess. And while they're hovering, they can still hurt you, and you can still hurt them. Touch damage is only 1 heart, magic is 2 hearts, so you might want to get close to them, I guess, so that you don't take too much damage. And they're so sporadic, even worse than Darknuts in terms of their sporadicity. That's not a word. And they like to match them up. Well, match them up might be the wrong word. Group it together. That's what I was looking for. With likes, bubbles. That's the word I was looking for. And other Wizzrobes, which is very lame because the bubbles will obviously take away your sword for a little bit. The likes will take away your shield until you buy a new one, so you can't block their attacks anymore. And then the Wizzrobes will destroy you. I had to use a potion here, because I am not going to die in this game at all. At least I don't plan on it. Not bad for a first potion use. I pretty much recovered all of my hearts but 1.5, and I lasted a long time not using potions, you know? I was very tempted. Well, not tempted, but I came close in Dungeon 5 a couple of times, at least on my first recording. But this time, I'm all good. There were two paths in that previous room, a top and bottom one. The bottom one actually leads to the boss, and that's where I'm going right now. The top one leads to more optional stuff, but I want to get Dungeon 6 over with as quickly as possible. At least get the Heart Container and Triforce as quickly as possible. I'm just jumbling up my words. But yeah, I want to get the Heart Container and Triforce quickly so that when I do re-enter the dungeon to grab the dungeon item, I'll have some extra hearts. And I guess another piece of the Triforce that doesn't really do anything. Wizzrobes are also immune to the candle, so if you decided you might want to set them on fire, that's not going to work. Which is kind of weird. I don't know why it doesn't. Actually, it might make sense considering the items that we're going to be getting in the next couple of dungeons. But I'll leave that for when we actually see the dungeon items. Here's one of them, underground paths, and it puts us pretty dang close to the Triforce, which is, you know, the red dot on the map that's flashing about. I really want to kill this bat, apparently. Not bat, Keese. They're called Keese in the Zelda series. This is a very simple room, just some blobs and I forget what they're called. Likes, yes. I think there was an earlier room where we fought some of the, you know what, never mind. This is more important. Likes, when they do eat you, keep using your sword to attack them and destroy them, basically, before they take away your shield. 3 swords... Whoa. I almost kind of, like, barfed, I guess. 3 sword slashes take them out. So maybe if you have, like, 2 sword slashes on them, and then you get eaten, and then you slash a 3rd time, your shield will be safe. And I have a lot of close calls like that in this dungeon. But, all hope is not lost when eaten by a like is what I'm trying to say. Those bat things were what I was going to talk about before the likes. Because we have the magical sword, when we attack them, kind of like with the blobs, they don't split into the 2 bats. They just completely die, which is pretty neat. And I have no idea what's in this room. Probably nothing. Maybe extra bombs or something. That's an idea. Using bombs on Wizzrobes. I probably should have done that, and it probably does decent damage. But I decided not to because I am the dumb. Now let us keep heading north and right to the boss room. The boss of this dungeon is Goma, and Goma is weak to arrows. Sometimes Goma will close its eye so you can't shoot it in the eye with arrows, and it will also shoot beams at you, but look at that. 1 arrow to the eye, it's dead. I can grab my Triforce. Probably the easiest boss in this game. But with that done, we can leave this place and never return. It's actually a lie, we have to return because I didn't grab the dungeon item, and I'm very... Well, I wouldn't say I like the dungeon item. Then again, I said that for the boomerang, and I ended up liking it a lot more than I said I did. I'll say that the concept of the item itself is cool. It's very similar to something that we've already seen that's in this dungeon, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. We also need rupees, by the way. I'm gonna be grinding up a little bit because 1, I want to buy myself another potion, and 2, there's gonna be another bomb upgrade in the next dungeon that also costs 100 rupees, so I'm gonna need all the rupees I can get. And because I had the red potion, I could use the second use of the potion in this kind of second run of the dungeon, if I need to. For some reason, the bombed wall to the left, well, not to the left, to the right, I bombed that wall in order to get to the end of the dungeon earlier than I should have. It's not bombed anymore. It's I don't know what word I would use to describe that. Basically, the wall's there again, and it shouldn't be, and I don't know why it is. That might be a glitch. I don't know. Maybe it's an on-purpose programming thing. When you leave a dungeon, you have to kind of restart it or something like that. Never mind. The hole was right there. I am a dunce. Yeah, when I was editing this part, I was like, I can't figure out where that hole was. I was going to speed up to it because we had already seen up to that point in the dungeon, but now I'm realizing where it is. It's too late. I'm recording my voice. There was Gleeok again, and again, it's pretty easy. Just stand near the heads and keep stabbing. This time I had 3 heads though, so it was a little more difficult, I guess. Gleeok is just not one of the most dastardly demons the Ganon could send at you. I was trying to go for an alliteration thing there, but I ended up using a word that I probably shouldn't have used in association with this game because Nintendo loves their religious censorship. Down here's the dungeon item, and it looks kind of like a wand. That's pretty much exactly what it is. It's the magical rod, or magic rod, maybe. I'm not sure if it's magical. Whatever. Basically, you press the B button, you shoot a little Wizzrobe beam out, and it can travel through some walls. I'm not sure if it can travel through all walls. It can also function as a sword if an enemy's close enough, and you press the B button with it, you'll perform an attack, and basically stab them with the wand. I think it does as much damage as the white sword, as does the beam itself. Sadly, Wizzrobes are immune to the magical beams of the magical sword. Wait, magic rod. I am out of it. Yeah, you can't hurt a Wizzrobe with the magic rod, which sucks. And you'd think, well, I could do the magic now too. Can I get some immunity going on? No, you cannot, sadly. You're gonna have to take it like a champ. Take those 2 hearts of damage. I think the magic rod stab doesn't have the exact same properties as a sword, because there are different runs in this game, you know, like 3 heart and stuff like that. There's a swordless run of this game. At least as swordless as you can go, because you actually do need the sword in order to beat the game. In order to deal the final blow to the final boss, you need to use a sword attack. And I think the magic rod doesn't count if you were to use it in substitution for that sword attack. So, kind of functions as a sword, kind of doesn't. It's like the opposite case of the Deku sticks in Ocarina of Time, where they do as much damage and have like the same properties as the Master Sword, which still baffles me to this day. Anyway, we're coming up to the last couple rooms of this dungeon, and I had to hit that like twice. Luckily, he didn't actually eat my shield, but Tis. That was a joke. Anyway, the magical rod isn't the best, in my opinion. It does decent damage, of course, but if you're at full health, you might as well use your sword swing. And then there's just the fact that some enemies are immune to it. The beam doesn't come out as fast as your sword beam does. There's a lot of things going against it, and the item that we're going to be getting in the next dungeon is meant to be an upgrade for it. At least I think it's the next dungeon. But it ends up being a downgrade for the magical rod. We'll see what that means when we get to whatever dungeon has that item. You might notice by the time of this video that most of it's going to be spent in this dungeon, and the rest is going to be spent in getting to Dungeon 7. I wanted to have 2 dungeons in each video, but if I were to put Dungeon 7 in this video, because after Dungeon 6, well, Dungeon 6 and above, they get really long and kind of annoying. It would be way too long for a video, so gonna have to keep that till later. I really wanted this game to be 5 parts long, but it's gonna end up being a lot longer. Can I just get out of this dungeon already? I don't want to see it anymore. It's like, I don't want to describe the color in any kind of way. Oh, if I kill a Wizzrobe in that room, the previous room, apparently there's a chief one, and if you kill it, then all the other ones go away. We've seen that mechanic before. It's just that in that room it wasn't really prevalent, because most of the time the Wizzrobes spawn in at the same place, so you might get like 5 beams layered on top of each other coming at you. But at the same time, if you stab at one of them, you pretty much stab at all of them. I'm gonna kill this Lionel. Yep, that just pretty much proved it. The magical rod does half as much, well, not half as much as the white sword. We're teleporting back to the beginning of the game pretty much. The middle road was the teleporter for that one. And I want to be here because Dungeon 7 is pretty close to here. There is an item required to get into Dungeon 7. It's the whistle, which I didn't really describe the function of when we did get it. It was for, in part, killing Dig Dogger, but when you use it in the overworld, it actually warps you to the different dungeons. So I think it's like if you're facing to the right, the number goes up in dungeons, like you go to dungeon 1, then 2, or something like that. If you're facing to the left, it goes down. I don't quite remember, because for one thing, I don't really remember what the numbers of each dungeon is, and for another thing, I don't really use the warp whistle that much. I need some potion, lady. And I'm pretty much broke now. Dungeon 7 is pretty close though. It's going to be in the forest. And up here, there is a fairy fountain, where if you stand near the fairy, you can refill your hearts for free. To the left though, is another pond kind of area, but this one doesn't have a fairy. I think there was an old man in the last dungeon that said something about playing a flute in a place where there wasn't a fairy. So after we kill this moblin, we're going to do just that. And it turns out that unlocks the path to Dungeon 7, which we're going to be doing next time.